Alright, so we're going to continue building our unit circle today. And all that we've done so far is come up with the angle measures, which is kind of basically, when you think of an angle measure, I don't want you to think of, in geometry, you learn this angle is this big. You think of it kind of as a directional thing. So like pi over 2 is this much of a turn. Okay? That's all that we've learned. We've not learned where the points are located. So we talked about a unit circle having a radius of 1. So it's a circle that's centered on the origin that has a radius of 1. And the whole purpose of this is it's kind of like the idea of a multiplication table. It's like a cheat sheet that tells us what sine and cosine of certain numbers, specifically the pi over 4, the 2 pi over 3, without using a calculator. So the whole point of this is to figure out these values without a calculator. And there is a lot of background information that if we had an extended amount of time, we would go in, we would be like figuring it out, but it all comes down to the special right triangles that you learned about in geometry. So you learned about 45, 45, 90, and 30, 60, 90 triangles. And you did some like Pythagorean theorem, different things with those. We just can't do all of that background build up because we just don't have time for it. All right, but in a coordinate plane, where is quadrant 1 located? Top right. Right. This is quadrant 1. And in quadrant 1, we're going to write down like if our x values and y values are positive or negative. So in quadrant 1, my x values, any point in here, are they positive or negative? They're positive. What about the y values? Positive, yep. Okay. Where is quadrant 2? Go over to the left. Okay. So quadrant 2. Why the quadrants are always labeled Roman numerals, I don't know. If you put 1, 2, that's probably okay. So the x values, positive or negative? Negative. And the y values are positive. There we go. So every point that falls in quadrant 2, the first number is the x, it'll be negative. The second number is y, it'll be positive. Okay. What's this quadrant down here? 3. And tell me about the signs of the x and y. Yep, negative, negative. And that leaves us to be quadrant 4, which is IV in Roman numerals. And what's the signs here? Positive, negative. So that's one thing that's going to help you as you're building the unit circle. It's going to look really overwhelming, but really you only have to actually memorize a fourth of it, and then you can build the rest from there. Something else that I did not put on the notes, but let's talk about reflecting points. Let's say I have this point, which I'm going to call 1, 3. And I'm going to reflect it across the y-axis. It's going to come right here, correct? What is that coordinate going to be? Negative 1, 3. Very good. What if I take this point and I reflect it across the x-axis? It's going to come down here, which is hard to see. And what's that coordinate going to be? 1, negative 3. So when we start looking at this unit circle and you learn about some points that are in the first quadrant, to find the rest of them, you're just going to be reflecting. So the only thing that's going to change are the signs. memorize it, and I'm going to continue quizzing you regularly on the radians and then on this. So, this is the first quadrant. Remember, this one right here in the middle. Does anybody remember what this one is? Pi over 4. And now we're going to write, and I left that little blank space for us to write those. Really probably should have put that one right there. So this is really like 1, yeah. This would be 1/4, 2/4, and then we would go 1, okay? This is 1/6, so pi over 6. Pi over 3. That's the part you already know. What are the coordinates of these points? Now, we can easily get these two. Our radius is 1, which means from here to here is 1 unit. So what would the coordinate of this point be? And then what would this one be? 0, 1. Good. These other 3 points I'm going to tell you, and actually it's kind of nice, kind of follow a pattern of sorts that'll help you memorize it. So, let's see, I'll do red. So, we've got coordinates. They're all fractions. The denominator of 2. Is that nice? Now, the top of this one is a 1. Square root of 2. And the top of this one is a square root of 3. So it really goes like 1, 2, 3. I mean, I guess you could say that that one's a square root of 1, because that's still 1, but you don't write that. So 1, square root of 2, square root of 3, and then going up, it goes backwards. 1, kind of memorize that pattern in this first quadrant. In a minute, we're going to look at how those reflect over. And again, those come from special right triangles. If you're really interested in knowing like the why, where all that comes from, you can get on YouTube and search unit it's a memorization thing. Gives us these trig values. And if you remember, well, we'll get there in just a minute, never mind. So I'm going to over here on the side, the and then 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. when we were on tangent and I had you doing like SOHCAHTOA, we wrote down that cosine is your x value and sine is your y. That's another thing you have to remember. It goes alphabetical. So C comes before S in the alphabet, X comes before Y. So you can kind of remember, that'll help you. And now, instead of me typing in sine of 2 pi in the calculator, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to where 2 pi is on my unit circle. So that's this one, 2 pi. And sine is the y value, so 0. So sine of 2 pi is equal to 0. If you type that in your calculator, now first of all, it has to be in radian mode because 2 pi were in radians. But if I do sine of 2 pi, you get 0. But you're not going to have a calculator on that test on this part, which is why you have to memorize the unit circle. On your test, you will be expected just on a scratch paper sketching it out. Like real quick, sketching it out, writing your points in, and using that yourself for the test. You won't get to do that ahead of time. You'll do that like as part of your test. So cosine of pi over 6. So I'm going to go to where the pi over 6 is located on my unit circle, which is this line right here. And cosine is the x. So it's square root of 3 over 2. Cosine of pi over 4. So here's pi over 4. What would cosine of pi over 4 be? Square root of 2 over 2. Sine of pi over 3. So I'm going to go to where pi over 3 is. Sine is the y value, which is what? Square root of 3 over 2. Cosine of pi over 2. 0. And sine of pi over 6. 1/2. So, the first quadrant, all of those points are just going to be reflected. So if you can remember, well, first of all, you have to remember the radian measures all the way across. So again, if I'm doing radian measures, here's how I'm going to do it. When I go fill in my angles, I know this is 2 pi. I know this is 1 pi. And then I'm going to do my fourths. I'm going to say, all right, this one, so go to the one in the middle. That one is 1/4. So pi over 4. Then I go up here. This one is 2/4, which is 1/2. So pi over 2. This one is 3/4. So 3 pi over 4. 4/4. 4 over 4 is 1 pi. This would be 5/4. So 5 pi over 4. 6/4. 6 over 4 simplifies to 3 over 2. And then 7/4. So see see, I just counted fourths. I counted 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, 7/4, and then back up here would be 8/4. We'll talk later. You could keep going. If it asks you for 9/4, this will be 9/4, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16/4. Kind of how we started talking about periods and how like it just keeps repeating over and over. All right, those are my fourths. Then we have sixths. So this is 1/6. So that would be pi over 6. Up here would be 2/6. 2 over 6 simplifies to 1 over 3. So pi over 3. So 1, 2, 3/6 is 1/2. We already have that one. 4/6 is 4 over 6 is 2 over 3. So 2 pi over 3. 5/6. 5 pi over 6. 6/6 is 1. 7 over 6. 7 pi over 6. 8 over 6 is 4 over 3. So 4 pi over 3. 9 over 6 is 3 over 2. 10 over 6 is 5 over 3. And then 11/6. And then we can start looking at our coordinates, our points. I would go fill in these 4. Okay, this is 1, 0, 0, 1, -1, 0, and 0, -1. That's where those points are. So if I'm filling out a unit circle, this is if you do this. So remember, they're all fractions. And then 1, 2, 3 up. Just make sure the 2 and the 3 has the square root. Square root of, that's what we've worked through so far. So I'm going to go across the y-axis. Okay. And if I reflect this value change, so this is -1/2 square. And then this one reflects here. So the x value is going to become negative. Negative square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. And then this one goes over there. It's going to be negative square root of 3 over 2. All of these y is positive. And then we think, all right, this one's going to come here. Think it, where would they line up? Right here. Negative square root of 3 over 2. And then the last one, negative 1/2, negative square root of 3 over 2. Are you able to visualize like which point goes to which one, like which ones match up? If you kind of just draw a line straight down or straight across, you can see where they line up. So I had the ruler. So like if I go straight down, this point and that point matched up. That one and that one. That one and that one. Okay. So if I go over here and I go straight down, this point and this point match up. So we should have positive and then negative. So square root of 3 over 2, negative 1/2. Square root of 2 over 2, negative square root of 2 over 2. And then 1/2, negative square root of 3 over 2. So this is probably not going to be, like when you go to sketch out a unit circle, you're probably just not going to start over here at 0 and fill in everything going around the circle. You'll probably kind of do this and skip over here until you get it all filled in. And the more you do it, the quicker you'll become at it. You're going to be doing this a lot. I'm going to have you fill one. I'm going to start with the drag and drops, and then I'm going to start in like giving you a blank one that already has a circle drawn in and has blanks everywhere, and then I'm going to get to where I'm telling you to do it on a scratch sheet of paper all by yourself, so that you'll, every couple of days, maybe every day, depending on how much time you have, I might have you just try it. Okay. So from this, we can get all of these trig values. So if my angle, if it's giving you an angle of 0, that, remember, that's the same as 2 pi. 0 and 2 pi are right here. So if it's asking you for the cosine of 0, that's 1. The sine of 0 is 0. So cosine is your x, sine is your y. The angle measure just tells you where to look on your unit circle. So pi over 6 The cosine is square root of 3 over 2. Sine is 1/2. Let's go up a little bit. Pi over 4, we're looking at this angle right here. Square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. I want you to finish filling in all of that chart. Well, that's your filled in chart. Just took it from the circle, put it in chart view. Running out of room. If you don't like the way yours turned out, then I can give you a blank one. If I was doing this over, and I'm a little particular, like if it was mine, I'd probably do it over. But if you want to do it over, instead of making like a solid line, do kind of how see how your notes had that break, so you could write. You could make your solid line, pick up your pen, and then keep going, and then write your radians about right here, and then your coordinates you could write out in that space. Was how it should have been done. But not everybody is as picky as I am. Okay, this would be negative square root of 3 over 2, negative 1/2. This one is 1/2. Okay. So we'll just fill those in.